We finally got the Galaxy S25 Edge in, and we ran it through a full round of lab tests, checking everything from app speed and gaming performance to even its sustained brightness to see how the thermals on this super thin phone actually hold up, while also testing its speakers, since it's likely that Samsung had to use a different setup just to get them to fit. But of course, the biggest question we'll be answering comes down to battery life, with this phone only coming with a 3900 mAh capacity, which is tiny compared to the 5000 mAh unit you get on the S25 Ultra. Of course, what the Edge has going for it though is it is arguably the most comfortable big screen phone you can get on the market right now, where despite having that big 6.7-inch screen, it weighs less than the base 6.1-inch iPhone. Whether or not that extra comfort is actually worth all the trade-offs though, well, there's only one way to find out. This video is sponsored by Abacus AI, which with their chat LLM team service gives you access to all the major language models in one place. This includes OpenAI's GPT-4.1 and O4 Mini, Google's Gemini, xAI's Grok, Claude 4, DeepSeek, and more, with Abacus's Route LLM feature automatically picking the best model for you based on your prompt. And if you don't happen to like the response that you get with one model, you can easily regenerate it using another model with just a single click. It works pretty much the same way for AI image and video generation, with models for that including ChatGPT's, Luma, Runway, and others. And the service also comes with other stuff like chatting directly with your PDFs and PowerPoints. The Humanize feature helps you avoid AI detectors. And then there's Deep Agent, which basically lets you do everything from building websites and apps to generating full research reports. I actually asked it to build me a Flappy Bird clone with the phone instead of the bird, and with literally just 2 prompts, I got a working game. And the best part of this is if you go to chatllm.abacus.ai, you get all of it for just $10 a month, which is way cheaper than paying for each of the LLMs separately. Click on that first link down below to learn more. Alright, so we'll kick things off with the battery test, since this is gonna be the biggest area of concern for almost anybody considering the S25 Edge, where after going on the same 1-hour phone call with constant audio on both earpieces, plus texting back and forth with our automated chatbot for another hour, the delta between the two is only 1 point. So not a bad start at all for the S25 Edge. And after another hour of email, it's the same story, with the two phones performing identically in that test. Now, we'll see how things go here in the browser test though, since each phone is randomly cycling through the same set of websites, where this time we do see a meaningful difference, with the Edge doing 2 points worse. But to be honest, 4 hours in, I was kind of expecting the Edge to be a lot further behind, so this is actually kind of reassuring, especially since after an hour of scrolling through Instagram, the total difference now is only 4 points. Now, we might see a bigger delta here in the standby test, where the phones do nothing but sit there for 16 hours straight, where this time the S25 Ultra does get a 2-point advantage. Now, I haven't mentioned it yet, but just in case you're new here, we do calibrate the displays on each phone to the same 200 nits of brightness, as well as matching the speaker volume on each to the closest decibel count, where after an hour of watching YouTube, plus another hour of playing a lightweight game in Alto's Adventure, the S25 Edge takes a major hit, with it now behind by double digits. And that delta might only grow here in maps, where an hour of simulating navigation with the GPS and the compass turned on while actively searching for traffic information, the S25 Edge falls another 2 points behind. Here in Spotify, we have our robots listening to music on each phone. Like I said earlier, the S25 Edge might be using a different speaker setup because of how thin it is, but at least in terms of battery performance, it only does 2 points worse once again. We will be doing a speaker test later on in the video, so make sure to stay tuned for that. But as far as the battery test goes, the S25 Edge is 15 points behind now as we start working on Snap. And I don't know how much longer it'll go, because this Snap test is super intensive. We're pretty much taxing every component from the display and the speakers to the microphone, the Wi-Fi chip, and the camera, where 59 minutes into the test, the S25 Edge gives out. So just 1 minute shy of making it to app cycle, which honestly is a really good result for a phone with only a 3900 mAh battery and a screen that's this big. Sure, the S25 Ultra lasts nearly 2 hours longer than it in app cycle, but at the same time, I don't necessarily think that the battery life on this phone is a deal breaker. But just take a look at our rankings and decide for yourself. Now, when it comes to charging the batteries back up, this is an area where the S25 Edge definitely falls behind. It only supports 25 watts of charging compared to the 45 watts you get with the S25 Plus and the S25 Ultra, which means after 10 minutes, you're sitting at just 16% compared to 24 on the Ultra, and after 30 minutes, it's at 52% compared to the Ultra's 67, which when you factor in that the Edge's battery doesn't last as long to begin with, I was really hoping that we would see faster charging on here. But given how thin and compact this phone is, Samsung probably just had to cap the charging speed to help keep the thermals in check. Speaking of thermals though, our next test puts both phones under stress with 3D Mark's Wildlife Extreme benchmark, which doesn't just check the phone's peak gaming performance, but how well the phones are able to sustain that performance over time. And right from the start, even though both phones use the same chipset, the Edge scores around 500 points lower, and that gap stays pretty much consistent all the way through. It's still a super powerful phone, but in terms of gaming, the actual Edge goes to the Ultra. Now, for normal day-to-day stuff though, like opening apps, large Excel files, editing photos, and even exporting 4K videos, both phones were neck and neck in all of our trials. So unless you're taking gaming super seriously, I wouldn't really worry about the performance on the Edge. But one area where I was worried was the sustained brightness. While Samsung obviously says that both phones hit the same peak or global brightness, which we did confirm, those numbers typically only reflect how bright they can go at the top end, but they don't tell you how long they can hold on to it or sustain it, like when you're sitting outside in your backyard in the sun. But after running both under simulated sunlight for 20 minutes, the Edge surprisingly did better. The Ultra dimmed down to under 400 nits about 13 minutes into the test, while the Edge, even though there was some fluctuation, stayed above 900 nits the entire time and even finished strong at around 1100 nits. So overall, I'm pretty impressed with the thermal performance on this phone. Now, if there was one area where I did walk away a little disappointed though, it was with the speaker system, since they're just not on the same level as the Ultra. Just take a listen for yourself. Obviously, it's tough to tell over video, but the Edge doesn't get as loud as the Ultra, but more importantly, it's missing some bass, and overall it just wasn't as full. So is it the S25 Edge worth it? Obviously, that's going to depend on what you're looking for, but here's what I will say. The S25 Edge has the highest screen size to weight ratio of any flagship bar phone right now. So if you're someone who has always wanted a bigger screen phone, but always found the big screen phones to be uncomfortable, the S25 Edge might just be the phone you've been waiting for, so long as you could accept the trade-offs that we covered in this video, plus the lack of any kind of telephoto cameras. But what do you guys think? Do you think it's worth it? Let me know down below in the comments. Anyways, that is it for me in this video. Thank you for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the very next episode.